My name is Danny Vibe and welcome to my studio. So today I'm gonna show you how I'm building up elements around chopped up samples from some disco tracks which I'm looking into at the moment. Actually I got inspired by a documentary where it all began. It's quite recent actually. It's about how house music developed in Chicago, actually how it developed in New York and moved to Chicago and different DJs. And there was a clip of Ron Hardy. He's a legendary DJ, and at that time he was the only person who was playing disco really hard. 130 BPM. In fact, if you listen a set of his 1986, we're saying like,
so driving disco.
Driving, and not even like disco. Sometimes like, he plays a track, and it's very mid 90s, but he's playing it in 1986. You know, and just artists, you know, people who used to follow him, or producers who are making stuff on drum machines. You know, they're giving him stuff, and he's playing them out, and he was playing them really fast. So I found a mixtape of him, and I had so many tracks that were used in so many house tracks, you know.
So you started sampling them?
So it's like when I find something where it wasn't sampled before, you know, like some gems, like disco gems. When you speed them up, it's literally house music, literally. So I'm just getting to know the more underground disco, so I can actually sample some snippets out of it, basically. Let's say, you know, Anita Ward, Ring My Bell, no? Ring my bell. Exactly, yeah. All I had from it is this part. So it's just a guitar, like, and then I just put on the drum machine then. And then I try to do some kind of a bass line. Then there is a track which I got from Ron Hardy's set of dance reactions called Dance Train. This is 1981. So basically what I do is, like for example in this case, I just automate the volume, the volume fader, just to cut off for example the claps and just get the guitar. Bim, bim. Bim, bim. Alright? And then obviously what I do is listen to the sample and try and build up a bass line with the sample. If you're gonna use samples as your first kind of go-to sound, then you have to build the track around the sample. It can't go other way around. You cannot just build up a track, for example, on the drum machine, just plaster a sample on top of it later. It might work.
You first start with samples, see what key you're in, and then you build everything around that.
There is no one good way of making music. But what I can maybe recommend is that whenever there's something which is you're going to be your main focus, either a vocal, either a sample, either a guitar, you know, start with that and then build around it. So it becomes natural, you know. Then apart from digital instruments, obviously you have the DeepMind, which is a very good instrument. I recommend it to everyone who wants to produce house music.
Pads are really nice on it.
It has the Juno 106. It emulates Juno 106, Jupiter 8. They have some sounds from the Prophet, you know.
Juno 106 is amazing.
Juno 106 is an essential for house music, you know. Has a function called unison. So basically, this instrument has 6 voices. 6 voices meaning it has 6 oscillators, which
different way.
You have one voice and they're getting overlaid on each other. And when you have a unison blending in, that's meaning that, for example, you have 2-3 voices blending in at the same time, so it goes off phase. That's a nice effect. And then there is the master of the mother of all bass lines, which is the emulator of the SH101. This one they used to
you wear it as a guitar.
Exactly, they used to use it as a guitar, and then all the 80s synth pop, you used to monosynth. So basically, if you trigger one chord, for example, let me put up the voice. It cannot play another chord with it.
Oh, okay.
It's a monosynth, you know. So
Wow.
the machine is kind of an accompaniment for this one. Some people use the MPC, and any kind of MPC, to be honest. And I recommend one thing: if you want to go for drum machines, start by getting the typical Roland ones, you know, with a sequencer on top of them. You can get a 909, you can get a 808, or get this one. This one is the latest one. I mean, the TR-8S, where
You can sample
it has 707, 808, 909, 606, 626, and you can also download other drum kits. If you go online, for example, on Bandcamp, there's so many kits for the TR-8S. Lin drums, you can get an MPC kit and put it on it, you know. Just obviously, the only difference is that every drum machine has its own swing, you know. Like for example, the 909 has the typical swing of 909 is quite straight, but the MPC, for example, has the jazzy kind of swingy style. So it depends what kind of house music you're gonna do. Then obviously there's the machine. The machine. I mean, Native Instruments really do a very good job in coming out with a product ready out of the package, you know. The library of the machine is really well made, you know. So
It has its own samples inbuilt.
the samples and build. At the moment, what I'm doing is I'm using it as another drum machine, accompanimento. Like for example, this case. I can just record something. Same sample I can use. I just cut another bit of it, you know.
Just using different bits of samples. and
Different bits of
complementing
samples,
each other.
exactly, and chopping the hell out of it, you know. Although you're not seeing it, there's a lot of automation in the background happening there, you know, to get it really tight. And the most important thing is this: before they used to use the MPC, all right, which had a limited amount of resolution when it comes to chopping samples. By all means, you can still do amazing work with all of that. But now we have the technology like Ableton, you know, that they have this warp technology, you know, that you can actually, because disco at the time was done by a drummer. Now a drummer is not a computer, you know. So they used to drift, and it's part of the style, you know. You drift a bit with the drums, you know, so it becomes more musical,
Human, or
more human. Now, when you're trying to match that with a drum machine, all right, you have a soulless machine, you know, which it's very straight in its programming, and then you have a drummer, you know. So what you need to do is really go into detail in warping. Warping is basically what's happening is you place them. For example, if it used to be like this, for example. What you need to do is just really gridding them, you know, just putting them exactly on the beat so it matches well the drum machine if you want a tight production. Now, in some cases, I don't need to do this much. In some cases, I like a bit of like loose kind of samples, but it depends on the track as well, you know. Exactly. What happens basically is I have the sample, alright, I start building a drum pattern with these two. I build up a bass line, it depends on which instrument I'm going to use. I can use that, I can use this one and use a VST because it's a MIDI keyboard.
And you record each channel of the TR-8S?
Yes, exactly. What I'll do is, I have a group here on Ableton already predefined basically and pre-mapped, where each and every channel from the TR-8S is coming directly into here. Okay, so here we have the snares, have the low toms, and exactly how it is placed here.
Okay.
It records right away through USB. I can record through audio as well. Through USB, it's actually you lose less quality because everything is being transferred digitally. The more stuff you have until it reaches your recording unit, you know, the more resistance, the more latency you have, the more the sound resolution will start degrading slowly, and especially with old equipments when everything is physical, when everything there. So that's why I bought this one. This is a sound card, this is a beast basically. It's Thunderbolt connected, so no latency whatsoever, and everything I have is plugged into it, so it's a mixer.
Okay,
But with less in the middle, you know?
So every single piece of equipment is on an individual channel?
Yes, exactly, on this one. And then obviously what I do is I open Ableton, and just by setting some settings, I pick up the sample from the sound card. Then some producers, like for example, like to record on the fly. I know a couple of friends of mine who like to record on the fly, you know? Because this is the way how they produce.
Jamming or
Jamming. So they jam it out, they record it. The only problem when recording a jam is you cannot go back to it and actually edit it, you know? Unless you record it channel by channel, but you need to have a very good setup, you know, to do that. What I do is, I'm happy with a loop. Normally I base my loops on a 16 bar loop, so it doesn't get boring.
So you get all your drums tight, you get all everything.
Exactly. It doesn't get boring, there's a lot of variation coming in and out, you know. I record everything over a 16 bar loop. It could be 8, but normally on a 16 bar, because it gives you a nice storyline, you know, if you build everything over 16 bars. And then I build it up myself. I like to build it up. Then on the session view here, if you look here, basically, I like to build up everything here. Okay, I record everything. I record all my instruments into waves. As much as possible, record them into waves because it will use less CPU on your DAW. So I record everything literally, and then I start editing. You know, for example, I do the first, for example, minute, or then I do go for the second minute, and then third minute. Okay, but as much as possible, leaving the main groove, the whole track. So extend the main groove the whole track. So I'm coming in and out.
As also you take elements out and you bring them back in.
Exactly, but the main, like the backbone of the track needs to be there constant.
Okay.
But later on, then you start deducting it, you know, and you strip it down. But at least it gives me constant flow, something I can go back to. Obviously, I start building up. I start finding some vocals which go with the track. I start like kind of playing around with the sample themselves. Like for example, if for example I had that guitar loop, look how I change it. You know? It's just all chopping, like literally chopping.
Manipulating it to make it
exactly. Then going back to the original loop, you know? And obviously with the bass like coming, you know. I have 3 loops going, and then I'm just
playing between
them. Not loops, clips, literally clips.
And what are your like go-to EQs and all that when you're in this process?
EQs? You should EQ each and every channel.
And you do that before you go into the...
Unless by chance you really got the sample and really managed to modulate it from the drum machine in itself. I EQ each and every track, even if it's just the slightest EQ. Why? Because if you want to make a mix down tight, all right, it starts from the EQ. It starts from the leveling, and then you EQ each and every channel. And I use literally the EQ of Ableton. Why? Because it's the cleanest. It doesn't flare your sounds. It's all about getting the sound out of the sound. As in.
Making it your own.
Imagine if you have, for example, 4 elements, all right, and 4 of them are hi-hats. Every hi-hat it gets triggered at a different point, you know, at a different sound. So you need to just put an EQ on each and every hi-hat and just pick up which frequencies needs to be more prominent in that sound. If you spend that time in actually listening and actually picking the actual sound, you know, by the end of it, you don't need a lot of mastering. Exactly, but at the end, mastering should be the least amount possible of compression, the least amount possible of limiter. If it's too much, if normally the mastering engineer will tell you, listen, there's too much I have to do here. You go back to the mixdown and do and correct it. By the end of it, then obviously I come up with the whole shebang. one thing you should do is that when you lay it down and you want to listen to it again, don't look at the waves, because you're seeing what's coming, you know. So as much as you want, just sit, listen, close your eyes, and see if it flows naturally, you know. I added this vocal. I know it was short, but hope you enjoyed this video, and hope I showed you pretty much how I go around stuff. I'm Danny Vibe, and thank you for watching this video.